So this is the finished look. As you can see, it looks completely normal, like I'm wearing just regular old liquid foundation. Firstly, I want to start talking about the different kinds of powders that I like to use. So most of these are loose powders, but I do have one pressed one that I really like. The first one I would like to talk about is the Physicians Formula Loose Mineral Powder. And this one retails for around $15 plus or minus. So the reason I really like this is out of all the other powders that I tried, this one lasted just a bit longer with how fast they got oily. So I think that's perfect for the summer for me personally. The next one is the L'Oreal True Match Mineral Powder, but I am like 90% sure it has been discontinued. So if you do find one in the store, that is probably the last ones you will see. So it's up to you whether you want to or maybe not. But I have been using these probably the longest out of all the mineral powders that I love. And as you can see, I've got quite a few. And the L'Oreal True Match Mineral Powder retails for $12, but most likely since they're being discontinued, they'll probably be on sale at this point. Next one I have is the Bare Minerals Veil Finishing Powder. So I will have to say this is probably the best one when it comes to choosing your shades. So the sucky thing about the drugstore mineral powders is that they don't have a lot of shade options. The lightest ones are actually really tan. Even for me right now that I'm already getting some tan, they're really tan. I have to mix them and like really brighten them up. So the sucky thing is if you're really pale, you don't have an option except going for something a little more expensive. And this retails for $23. So it's not that crazy, but it's definitely pretty much double the price of the drugstore ones. And the last favorite that I have, it is the pressed Milani concealer slash pressed powder, or what is it called? Shine proof powder. It's a very, very long name, but this is one of my favorites when it comes to pressed powder because you're able to actually get that like coverage if you wanted, and you kind of avoid, ooh, I just like dropped on me. And you basically are able to avoid all the messiness. But however, they also don't come with that many shade ranges, so a little sucky. So that's why I kind of have to mix and match with a lot of them, especially like I said, right now, when I get more into the summer and I get a lot more tanner, it's no longer a problem for me. Now for the fun part, the application. The first thing you gotta do is moisturize. This is absolutely key. Without moisturizing, the product just doesn't have anything to stick with. So I'm just using my regular Nivea moisturizer. I'm not picky. This has been working very well for my skin, and it's affordable, so why not? Another huge factor when it comes to moisturizing is do not put on powder right after you moisturize. Your face is way too wet and way too goopy still. Your skin basically didn't absorb any of the moisture. So if you start putting the powder on right now, well, whatever, after you finish, you will clog up your brush. So you'll get those wet looking bristles, and you'll basically get clumps on your face. And then of course, when you first initially pat your face with the powder, you will have like dark and light and very, very patchy looking skin. So the other key is wait till your moisturizer absorbs about I would say 50%, that we have the slightest bit of tackiness left. And that's the perfect time to start applying. For applying the powder, you want to use a medium-sized brush. So a perfect size would be like the e.l.f. 105 brush. And the Real Techniques, I want to say this is just like the powder brush. I'm not quite sure. The words rubbed off of it because it's like really old. But these are perfect sizes because, first of all, you will not waste extra product, because using big ones, you just pick up way too much and then you waste it. And also you can get around places that are a lot tighter, like around your nose and your eye. So this is like the perfect brush. So for the products I'm using today, I decided to use the Physicians Formula mixed in with a little bit of the Maybelline Fit Me powder because, like I said, they're a little too bronze for me right now, so I kind of try to lighten them up a little bit. And on top of that, I added a tiny bit of the Revolution Luxury Baking Powder because it was just I'm just worried that it's going to be a little too tan. But upon mixing those together, something you want to start off with is don't ever just like dip your brush in and just go straight for your face. That's going to be way too much. And you're going to have, like I said, the blotchy skin. So you want to dip your brush in and tap off the excess. Another helpful tip when applying this kind of loose mineral powder is you don't want to just keep tapping initially just to get some of the product attached, but the key is to keep blending, because that is what will give you that even look, the more like foundation-y look. And then another thing, if it's not obvious, maybe it's not, I don't know if the camera's picking up, this is very messy. Like I have so much powder flying around me. So don't wear anything that you don't want to get dirty or ruined, because this is extremely messy. One of the really big negatives about this stuff. So if you're okay with getting a little bit powdery, maybe wear a robe or cover your shirt or something, because it's a really high chance you're gonna look dusty afterwards. As you can see, already just one layer and my skin is pretty much covered. I mean, I see a few little purple from like my acne scars peeking through, but I mean, generally this is like really, really good coverage. Like one layer for someone that has barely any acne or nothing to cover up, this would be perfect. So I think like the huge make it or break it kind of thing when it comes to getting this perfect is the moisturizer. If it absorbs just enough, your skin is going to look perfect. But if it's, like I said, too wet, it's going to look really bad. I've done that in the past, and then until I tried this, that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I should have done this like a long time ago. Because what I would do before, when I first started wearing like mineral powder, is I would put on moisturizer and right away put it on. And then I would be like, oh, why is this like such a weird patch? And I just would not understand. But it's just too wet. So at this point, I pretty much got everything covered, and this is like one layer. And as you can see, I mean, everything is covered. If you're up close, you can tell that I have some peeking through, or like you can tell I have some scarring. But I mean, this is so little and it's pretty much all covered. So like I said before, if someone is like really not liking to wear liquid foundation or just doesn't want that much coverage but wants kind of like a light filter, because you can like see my freckles and stuff like that. My freckles aren't that bright, but you can tell that they're there. And like I said, you can still see a lot of my like really bad pimples still sticking out. But generally this is like, I mean, this is like perfect for like the most minimum coverage. I absolutely love this stuff. And now is when I go back and pretty much spot conceal. So like right here, I have stubborn ones sticking out. So what I do for those is I pick up a little more powder. I tap it on initially, so like I get the most coverage, and then I just a lot more lightly and gently I start brushing it out. So pretty much to dust off any excess. Another little tip and trick that I learned is for the really small pimples or small little things that you want to conceal, you don't necessarily want to use a big brush, maybe. Well, not big, but you don't want to use like a brush and the spot is very little. I just take a Q-tip, and what I do is dip it into the powder and like find the spot that you don't like or that is like so small that it's like pointless. So what I do is tap it on my cheek, and it's kind of obvious, like this white spot, but then you dust it off. And when you dust it off, make sure you have a tiny bit on your brush, because if you have nothing, you pretty much just like rub off everything. But by having a little bit, you pretty much help it blend in. That's why this method is so nice, because you can pretty much spot conceal, but still have very light coverage, because you don't need to go twice over your face or, you know, have so much more coverage when you don't really need it. You can just dust like a little bit around your nose and cheeks, like your good spots. Like for example, my forehead is my pride and joy. I never get pimples on it. Hallelujah. So I don't really need to put extra on it. It looks fine. There's nothing it needs. But however, my lower jaw is where I get all my breakouts. So this is where I like to go over some spots. And then of course, like I just demonstrated with the Q-tip, I sometimes need to go and touch up twice because I have some scars that are very like deep blue purple ones. And those, of course, need a lot more attention because just powder alone doesn't cover them up. So this is pretty much it. I know it's super, super simple. So after this, just carry on with your regular routine and, you know, blush, powder, highlight, whatever else you would want to add. It's pretty much basic. I mean, I would say this is really, really simple. Now, for those of you who are looking at me and going, this is really matte. It is, yes. I personally don't mind it because I know my skin and I know it's going to get oily as soon as I step out the door. So I don't mind it. But if you do want to change that, I would recommend using a setting spray that is a little more dewy. I found the days that I am staying inside or I just want more dewiness, all I have to do is just apply some setting spray that's more hydrating, and that's it. I look a lot more glowier. But of course, for those girls that are oily like me, I would use something like the Milani Make It Last setting spray because there's a little bit of alcohol in it, so it would help like really solidify your face. And then of course, my favorite thing to do when it comes to making my face glowy is not just making it glowy all over. I like to put it in the correct places. So I put it usually on my cheekbones, tip of my nose, eyebrow bones, on my forehead. So basically you can control where you glow. And that's what I personally like because I know my skin's oily and I don't want to give it more stuff to get oily about. So just having the perfect places where to glow is what I like to. I basically like to control my glowiness. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of my makeup and then come back to show you the end result. So this is the finished look. As you can see, it looks completely normal, like I'm wearing just regular old liquid foundation, but in fact, it's all powders. I haven't used a single thing that is liquid, which is absolutely amazing. This technique has been a favorite of mine, especially during the summer season, since I live in a very humid environment. Sometimes wearing a lot more heavier product just, first of all, doesn't feel good, nor does it last very long. So having something like a powdered product is having like the best of both worlds. I'm able to get full coverage if I want to, and at the same time be light and not feel like I have like a thick goop on my face. I hope this video was inspiring, especially for those of you who don't like wearing liquid foundation and still want flawless looking skin. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe to see more videos like this, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!